Hi everyone, this is Billy. If you've been watching my video, you know that I designed this tent stove with an oven that I tested last time. Total weight is 1.62 kg including the glass. This was my testing video. It is set up using the hinges like the door, so it's easy to set up. Once it's set up, you can put the stuff in the oven, light up the fire. When it burns, you can have a good meal. So we need this material to make it. You can use this 0.3 millimeter thick titanium metal sheets. Each meter costs 170 RMB. Each is 300 millimeter wide. We need a total 3 meters to make this stove. Alternatively, you can use stainless steel metal sheet, which is much less costly. The 0.25 millimeter one is 38 RMB per meter and is as wide as 600 millimeter. Titanium is light and also have good distribution of heat, so it won't get warped. Surface will remain flat, whereas stainless steel is cheap, but heat energy transfer is a little bit worse, so some part of the stove will heat up more and get expanded, causing the stove to warp. You can also add glass window to the stove and the oven. You can buy these high temperature glasses that can sustain temperature up to 800 degrees Celsius. Now let's start making the stove. First, you find these blueprints of all the different parts and sizes. You can design your own size. My stove is designed with a 220 millimeter tail end oven. So first we will create a stove base. It's 470 millimeter times 290 millimeter. So we need to cut the metal or the titanium in that size. And we need to leave 20 millimeter on each side, left and right, so we can fold it up to make it a little bit stronger. And top and bottom we have a 20 millimeter folding to make and another 10 millimeter space left for creating the hinges. First, let's cut up the amount of sheet metal we need and cut it out, and then start marking the lines for area we need to fold. If you don't have the metal bender machine, you can fold using a clamp like that. Next, we are going to make the sidewalls of the stove. The measurement is 448 times 170 millimeter. Is a folding line at 10 millimeter by the side and top and bottom. Cut out the size of the material as in the blueprint. Then draw the marking for the folding lines. This time we are going to use a metal folding machine. This is a DIY folding machine for metal sheets that I created. If you missed my video, I'll put a link in my description so you can refer back to that video to make one using the aluminum plates. We'll just put the metal sheets to be bended, clamp it with the screws and a G-clamp, and then raise the handle to fold it. Next, we are going to make the hinges like that of the door hinges. So first is to divide into equal parts of 30 centimeters apart. Let's draw the line there to divide up the side of, this is the base, divide up the base. So that last bit that is 10 millimeter set aside for this hinges, we just divide that into 30 millimeters apart. Then do the same on the side plates, but mark it the same way as we did on the base, so those markings are lined up. Then we need to mark alternate section with a cross. The part that are in the cross will be cut out, so we can have the hinges built. So cut it out, make sure the part of the cross is a little bit bigger than the part that is retaining to create a gap, so there will not be too much friction when the hinges move and rotate against one another. But you want to make the gap as small as possible to avoid too much heat energy being lost. Next, we are going to bend this metal sheet into a cylinder shape so we can fit in the steel rocks that we got from the hangers. We'll use the clamps to rotate and turn the metal sheet into the same shape as the steel rod. Once it's done, you can test it by inserting the steel rod and see if it's rotating freely. You can connect the base with the side plates through these joints. Next, we are going to make the front of the stove and the back of the stove. The size is 282 times 198 millimeter, and we have 10 centimeters folding lines at top and bottom and 25 centimeter folding lines on each side. And then mark the part that you need to cut out, measure it, and just cut out the part that you need. We'll draw and mark the folding lines. And use our metal bending machine to bend it into the shape we want. After that, drill some holes and fix it with 2 screws, so the front and back can be folded like that. Next, we are going to make the oven module. The oven module is made out of 4 metal sheets. First one is the top and the bottom, 230 times 250 millimeter. There are 10 millimeter folding lines set aside for the hinges to be made. And we have 2 side plates for the oven. Measurement is 173 times 230 millimeter. For this one, we have a 30 millimeter leg on 4 sides. So this is the leg where it creates an air gap between the stove and the oven to retain the heat energy and let the hot air flow around the oven. There's also a 10 millimeter folding line for the hinges to be made. Again, bend the metal sheet into the form we need using the metal bender, or you can use the clamp if you don't have the bender. Then we repeat the same technique we used to build the hinges for the front of the stove. So this time I use a long clamp to create the cylinder I need to fit in the steel rod. This is how the oven module looks after it's done. Need to bend the 30mm leg a little bit to fit to the base, because the base is a bit narrower because of the hinges. Then we can fit the oven into the stove. This is how it looks when the oven is fitted into the stove. Then we'll put a few rivets at the four corners on the side of the stove where it meets the oven, so we can secure the oven in place once it's put into the stove. Next, we need to make the oven door. So the oven door is on the side of the stove. First, we need to mark the places to open up a big enough window for the door, leaving behind around 5mm on each side. We need to fold the side of this window so that we can strengthen the window a bit and also remove the sharp edges from hurting your fingers. Next, we find a piece of sheet metal at least 5 millimeters bigger than this hole, so we can fully cover it and leave no edges or gaps. Then we'll put in the glass, the actual glass that forms the window in the door, and also the meter for the temperature. We'll make the hinge for the oven door using the same technique we've shown before. Using the hanger wires, we can make a hinge and join the two pieces together. Then we can draw the size of the window where the glass will be mounted. Again, we need to leave at least 5 millimeters as a frame so the glass didn't fall out. We'll be marking these lines and then cutting out this window and fold it into a frame. The frame will be able to secure the glass in place without a screw. Next, we are going to make this front door of the stove. So we need to draw up the space where we want to cut it out and build the hinges. We need to fold the side of the door so it can be strengthened and avoid the sharp edges from cutting the fingers. Use the hammer to bang it so that it's flat. We'll use the same technique to build the hinges for the stove door. Next, we are going to build the wind gates. I previously used the circular wind gauge, but I find that it's very hard to control. So I switched into this rectangular wind gauge with a sliding door. We just need to cut out half of the rectangles away, leave the alternate half there. And then we have another piece of metal as the sliding piece, so we can open and close each rectangle. Finally, we are going to make the glass window frame for the stove front door. This is a smaller piece of glass, and we'll just make a frame for the window. This is the end of my video. If you like my video, please click like, subscribe, share with your friends, and click the bell so I can let you know when my new video is. Thanks for watching. This is Billy.